Hi everybody, Max right here, and just it's a few days after I just did a live stream with one of my favorite YouTubers, Sargon of, and me being a libertarian, him being a self-identified left-leaning person. We had some really good back and forth with some differing views on stuff, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you again, Sargon, for the conversation. I've been, after interacting with a lot of people in the conversations afterward, and by the way, I'll put the link to that conversation in this video, below this video. After interacting with a lot of people in the chats of that, I had a chance to reflect on the conversation, and a really interesting thing kind of came out of it for me. I just want to share that with you. Hope it's enjoyable for you. During the conversation, as so often does with these types of conversations, we arrived at the point where, in a given example, let's say, should there be a minimum wage, or should there be socialism, or should there be the welfare state, or whatever, we came to the crossroads, which was where morality conflicts with what I understand there to be as a practical solution to something. And it's like I see a problem, let's say it's poverty and wanting to do something about it. I know that advocating stealing from person A to person B is immoral, but the failure to do so will cause significant harm and pain. For example, could cause mass starvation, or lots of people starving to death, or things like that. And there's an apparent contradiction between the morality of it and the practicality of it. And during the conversation, I said that this is the chasm that divides the world, I think. It's when these two are at odds, do you do what you know is morally correct, consequences be damned, or do you sacrifice your morality and do what you think will actually help people to the best of your ability and the best of your understanding at the time? And I would think that probably most people in the world is actually in the latter. They will do what they think, if it means saving lives or not, damn it, I'm going to do the immoral thing. And I certainly understand that perspective. I certainly had that perspective once upon a time. And it was this kind of concept that I was reflecting upon. And I just went down that journey a little bit. I thought, how did that journey happen for me? And I can remember, I went to a public school. I came out the other end a socialist, of course, advocates of huge government intervention, government solving problems, forcing people to do moral things, etc., forcing people to do things that I thought would make the world a better place. And just as the journey went along, just at first, things just started to fall one by one. Like I might research things like minimum wage, and of course minimum wage is a great idea. Working poor, people can't survive, etc., etc. And then with a little bit of research and a little bit of understanding, I understand that, wow, actually raising minimum wages and having a minimum wage law at all actually creates tremendous hardships for the poorest of people in our society, and it hurts the economy. Future generations suffer, current generations suffer. It's a significantly horrific idea with terrible, terrible consequences. And I look back and I thought, wow, and trying my best and to just get the best outcome, even though I knew I was advocating for something immoral. I knew I was advocating for prohibiting two people entering into a voluntary transaction that had no direct meaning for me. But I advocated for it because I thought it was going to do a good thing, and upon reflection many years later, I realized that it was not going to do a good thing. And this has kind of happened one by one. I thought, well, of course there should be like a government should regulate, what kind of drugs we should put in our body for our own sake, heroin, etc., saving people. And then you do the research, you understand how bad prohibition is, how it actually increases use of the drug instead of helps. And that same thing happened for alcohol, same thing happens for many other things. It's actually just a way to create a little mob syndicate whereby there's incredible profits there, and the most nefarious people in the world are actually incentivized to get people hooked into drugs. There's a whole underculture. There's police bribery, etc. All these different things, and you're just going, my goodness, I used to advocate for something that causes so much damage, and all because I just, I didn't have the ability, and I don't know if anyone does, to understand all of the consequences and all of the, second, third, fourth, fifth tier of consequences that happen as a result of advocating for this immoral act of me wanting to throw someone in jail because I think if them injecting something or swallowing something is bad for them. And just one by one, they just started to fall. Yes, you should have a federal drug authority, to tell us what drugs are safe and what aren't. Then you go ahead and you realize that, wow, actually the FDA, that just is a corporate puppy of the big pharmaceutical companies, and it prohibits competition so they can jack up the prices, and the people who need those drugs the most and who need effective cures don't get them because it's just a profit racketeering project. And just again, one by one, they just start to fall, and at some point so many dominoes fall that you just kind of put the pieces together and you just go, my goodness, I've been an advocate for something that has just turned out so bad so many times because I decided to ignore the very simple, 1 + 1 = 2 moral case. All right, I ignored that because I thought I had a very good, reasonable understanding of a very, very complex topic and how millions of different people in the world interacting in a different way and introduction of new laws, how that affects things and what outcomes they're going to be. Because I think I understand that, I'm going to advocate for something that I know is immoral. And just time and time and time again, it just bit me in the backside. And so that was like kind of my transition into libertarianism. Eventually I crossed that threshold where I didn't have to wait to hear how I was going to find out that what I thought was going to happen wasn't really going to happen. And in fact, it turns out much better than you realize. Eventually I just, when I ask, what's your position on this? I just state the moral case. And the moral case, I've been a libertarian for 15 years now, and the moral case has led me in the direction where I've later gone on and done the research, later gone on and found out, when you actually implement these laws or don't implement these laws, what actually happens. And almost invariably, the outcome is crystal clear. If you just advocate for the moral case, you'll get a much, much, much better outcome. And I mean, that's really the big lesson for me. It's something I wanted to share. I hope that helps a lot of other people in this journey, and it speeds up the journey for them, because I think it's a really sad state of affairs. Actually, I think it's a terrible consequence on humanity that people so often, let's just go with what we think is going to be the best outcome. When it's absolutely impossible to know because there's so many variables. But on the moral case, it's very simple to know. As simple as 1 + 1 = 2. You know that stealing is bad. You know that forcing someone to be your customer is bad. You know that prohibiting someone from being your customer, any kind of force, is bad. And just go with the moral case, and more often than not, I promise you it'll work out a much, much better place for humanity, and you'll be a force for good instead of bad, I would say. So I hope that was helpful. If you do have curiosities and questions, and I hope you do, about any of the things I've stated, like the practical matters, things like, well, if there's no government, then just the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. That's what capitalism means. And all these kinds of falsehoods. Without government to intervene, monopolies are going to be created, and the opposite happens. Actually, governments create monopolies. That's what they do. And so all of these practical matters, I've got a whole YouTube channel dedicated to just debunking all of these things. There's lots of different videos there. So if you just check out my YouTube channel, which you're obviously on if you're watching this, please just go through the history, especially the older videos that are 2, 3, 4 years old. I debunked all of these things. I went through and did lots and lots of research and made the case for why a lot of these premises that we say we advocate, yes, let's do something immoral because it's going to have a good outcome. I actually go through and make the case why practically it actually has a negative outcome, in addition to the fact that it's an immoral case. So please go and check out those videos, and hopefully you too will start knocking those dominoes over one by one, and eventually you'll get to the point where you're just left with, you know what, I'm just going to do the moral thing, and I bet you everything's going to work out fine. And that's where I am, and I think it's the right position. I'm just trying to do the best I can to make the world a better place. I hope you see that, and I hope you enjoy the videos, and I hope you enjoy this video. Take care. Bye-bye.